Hey everyone, and welcome to another lecture on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we will research chapter 5, verse 7 to 11. A purified soul is harmoniously merged and becomes a victorious soul when it has subdued the senses. That soul which sees sentient souls in all souls when acting is also not tainted. So let's go to 8 and 9 and then we will take a composite view of what Sri Krishna is trying to say. I do not do anything is what yogis who know the truth should cognize, even when they are seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, sleeping, breathing, speaking, evacuating, holding, opening the eyes, and closing the eyes also. In fact, the yogi senses should move separately from sense objects. So, this is a pretty composite kind of an instruction which Sri Krishna is giving to Arjuna. So, let us start with looking at the sense objects, how they move, and what is the outcome of the sense objects moving in this manner. When we receive stimulus, we receive all the stimulus through our senses. Now, it is important for us to recognize that when the stimulus comes to us, we are actually at that point in time aligning ourselves or being aware of the environment. We are actually in an environment which is giving us stimulus. So our awareness is more on the external side than it is on what is happening within us. So what happens is that the external environment gives us stimulus. This stimulus comes through our mouth, nose, eyes, ears, or skin. This is in the form of, say, sound, sight, or taste, or smell, or touch. All these stimuli get collated at a central location called the manas, or the center point of cognition. That in the stimulus that comes to us gets compared with the information that we already have resident within us. So let us look at it. The sense organs or the jnanendriya gather the stimulus. The input is at the manas or the cognitive center. Now, that stimulus is compared with what data we already have. This is the dharma or our conditioning. How does that happen? We are born with a particular DNA, have a certain processing capability, a certain memory, a certain ability to deal with whatever we are. Our parents load the operating system on us. Then what happens is that we go to school where our teachers load information on us so that we become contributory members of society. We network with friends and then we begin to get integrated into a network called society. So, society also molds us to think in a particular manner. This becomes our dharma. That natural state where we are comfortable, where we don't get stressed, where we are at peace with ourselves. The harmony of existence is that dharma that we have acquired over time. So when the stimulus comes, that is compared against that information, or that conditioning that is resident within us. If that information that comes is synchronous with the dharma, then what happens is that we go and the object of that, wherever that has come from, the source of that stimulus, we bring it closer to ourselves. Whereas, if that stimulus is not congruent with our dharma, we try to push that source away from us to avoid getting more pain. That is called raga and dvesha. So all the time we are acting on a reflex, which is over a built up conditioning. So that information goes into what is called the amygdala. The amygdala then decides, that is the buddhi, the memory system, then decides whether there is threat, and then that floods, that information goes to the adrenaline glands through the hypothalamus pituitary adrenaline axis, and then floods our system with adrenaline and cortisols to prepare ourselves to fight or to run away. All this that happens is reflex. We don't really use logic to control this. It is not a response system, it is a reaction system. So, what happens is, if we have to convert this reaction system into a response system, then what we need to do is bring more awareness into what is happening to us when we are in an environment. Now, that awareness that we need to bring into ourselves has to be from within. Awareness of who we are, what is happening to us, why we react in a particular manner for certain types of stimuli. And that is called jnana. That information that we get from the external environment is called vijnana. And that awareness that we slowly bring into ourselves of what we are doing and how we are reacting is called jnana. That is, we are beginning to get aware of our own existence, how we react, why we react in that particular manner, what is our dharma, why certain things seem to make us feel uncomfortable, why certain things make us happy. Now, this is basically what happens to us. The information is coming to us, there's a sentient interface. Now, we compare that sentient interface with our experience, already our memory, and then we react. And if we have evolved to some extent, we respond. For that, we need to understand our causal state, or what is it that drives our reaction. So, that causal state or the awareness that needs to be brought into us is called the Purusha, the I, the understanding of the I. And for as long as that I exists, there will be an experience. And for as long as that experience is there, you will always be connected to the world, the universe that is around you. And that is basically the fundamentals on which Sri Krishna is basing this entire statement. Let us go back to the verse. A purified soul is harmoniously merged and becomes a victorious soul when it has subdued the senses. Why does he say this? Because what he's saying is, if you stop the data from being processed, when it hits you, then automatically your cognition is not going to have to work. Your cognition is not going to get disturbed. So he says, stop it at the entry level, close the gates. That is the first part. Unfortunately, when we live in a world, it is not possible for us to completely switch it off. It is not possible for us to completely shut the doors and not live in a world of stimuli. Because even when you shut the doors in your house, there will be stimuli coming from various other things that are around you, including the door itself, the door, the window, the fans, the air conditioning, everything will give you stimuli even if you try to shut it out. So, it is a shutout that has to happen in a metaphysical way. It is not a physical shutout that you can manage. The second thing that he is talking about is that the soul which sees sentient souls in all souls when acting is also not tainted. So, this is the second way in which he says that you can merge with the Brahman. How does he say that? If you see a sentient soul in everything, that means if you see divinity in not just yourself or in another human being, but in everything, on all creation. Now, here there is always a dichotomy or a doubt that people have. that sentient souls means only living animals or living entities. But my argument is that to become a living entity, you have to go through the process of karma. You should have experienced and you should have evolved to a point where you can reach that particular state where you can become a sentient creature. So, which means that even a entity which is unitary in its own self has got a soul, like a car, like a truck, like a mobile phone. All of these have souls. This computer has a soul. It will work for as long as the destiny allows it to live. The minute its destiny is finished, it will die. So it has a birth, it has a death. All it does not have is senses, but it has the ability to cognize, which we don't understand. So the argument is, which I am presenting, is that all creation comes from Brahman. All creation has an identity or Purusha. We as humans do not have the ability to cognize everything because of dharma and because of the filters that we have around us, the way we have been trained, the way we have been brought up, the operating system on which we function does not allow us to break free of the shackles of Maya. So, what happens is that we discriminate between sentient and insentient, that which exists, that which does not exist. So, my understanding of this particular verse is that the soul which sees sentient souls in all souls when acting is not tainted. So, if you treat your car with the same respect that you treat your child, then you are acting without differentiation. If you treat a dog with the same respect as you would treat a child or your child, then there is no differentiation. This is what Sri Krishna is trying to say. Now let us look at verses 8 and 9. I do not do anything is what the yogi who knows the truth should cognize when he is seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, sleeping, breathing, speaking, evacuating, holding, opening the eyes, and closing the eyes also. Now, this is the third method which Sri Krishna is offering to Arjuna. When the entire sense organs are completely in the control of the self, of the person, then the eye does not see anything. It sees Brahman everywhere. When it sees Brahman everywhere, even when the action is happening, if there is no I, when there is no ahankara, there is no sense of doership, even when the act is happening, what happens is the feeling is that I am not doing, it is happening. This is not easy at all. For one to become a full karma yogi or to be able to perform action at the same time, not have the sense of self-worth engaged in the action, not to have a sense of doership when the act is going on, is extremely difficult. So what he is saying is that if you can reach a point where when you are acting, whether you are opening your eyes, closing your eyes, eating food, no matter what, even when you are driving, if the whole universe for you seems like one, there is no difference between anything, then you are in a state of perfection. So, this is something that we can practice 24/7. It is not necessary that you should sit in one place in order to practice it. Suppose you're walking, suppose you're cutting your vegetables, suppose you're cooking. Suppose you don't see any difference between what you cook or what you cut and the actual act of cooking. There is no personality involved in the actual action. When you can remove the personality from the action, then you are in a state of perfection. That means you will always be in the present. You are not loaded with baggage of the past, nor are you dreaming about what will happen when you finish the task. So the fruit of the action is not impacting you. So this is what Sri Krishna is trying to say. So let us look at the next two verses. He who has based his actions in the Brahman and who acts after abandoning all attachment, he is not tainted by consequences and is like a lotus leaf in water. The yogi performs actions using the body, cognitive apparatus, logical reasoning and senses, abandoning attachment, acting only for the purification of the soul. This will be a follow through of 7, 8 and 9 because obviously he's trying to reach a point of conclusion while starting with how you need to act. And what he is saying is that if you act, when the minute you begin to act and you are completely immersed in the Brahman, that time the I am, will be completely subsumed in the Brahman and you will have no attachment. Because, and the contrary is also true. If you act without any attachment, if you are neutral in all your actions, then automatically you will merge in the Brahman because there is no ahankara, there is no asmita. The sense of self-worth is not impacted whether you succeed or you fail. And that is what he is trying to say. How should you be? He is saying you should be like a lotus leaf in water. So the lotus is in a pond where it has got all kinds of things around it. But the minute water falls on the leaf, it will just fall off. It will not stick to the leaf. So that is what he is saying you should be. You should be like a lotus leaf in water no matter what your circumstances. This is the most important verse of the whole of the 5 verses that we are talking about today. The yogi performs action using the body, cognitive apparatus, logical reasoning, and senses, abandoning attachment and acting for purification of the soul. Now, that means that you cannot abandon action, but the action that you perform must be without the personality. That is the I am the doer. I want, desire. I don't like. I like, duality. All of this must be abandoned. It's very difficult. But if you can do it, then what will happen is you will reach a stage where there is no personality and you will be merged in the Brahman and you will see the universe as one, not as different from you. That is, I am will no longer exist. All this that you see, the room, the mic, all of this will not be there. It will have merged into the same place. There will be no difference that you will see in any of your actions. Now let us look at how this will impact us. So we need to understand some aspects of what happens to us when we are acting, right? The first thing is our entire maturity will depend on our stage in life. If we are at a brahmachari stage, our needs, we are still very raw. We have not seen life. We are still understanding the various aspects of life. We are learning. We are in a student stage. As grahasthas, we are consumers. We have a family. We are learning new things about what it means to be married. When we have a child, trying to support the child itself becomes a very big thing. Then we go to work. We learn new things at work. Also, we have to build our asset base because after we get old, after we get tired, we need to have the ability to sustain ourselves until death. So, the Grahastha Asrama stage or the family stage is one of consumption, of effort, where we first try to become a family, try to understand each other, then we have a child, then we go to work, we get an income, we save some, we spend some, and then slowly we age. And as we age, we enter Vanaprastha where we then get the chance to slow down. And when we slow down, we begin to reflect on everything that we have done so far. And when we reflect on things, we begin to mature from within. And as we begin to mature from within, while our actions begin to slow down, our ability to step back from the action, or what is called vairagyam, the ability to step back from the action and to cognize that which is permanent from that which is temporary, which is called vivekam. These two qualities begin to emerge from within us. And then the last state, which some of us might get blessed with, is the renunciate stage, where we renounce the need for these material attachments. It won't become easy. Slowly, we begin to let go all these attachments. And when we are able to do that, then we become yogis, or we begin to get yoked with the Brahman. When we are going through this evolution, we go through three different stages. The first stage is called stula, where what you see is what you get. We are all the time functioning in that world of what you see is what you get. That is the sheath of physical structures. And then as we begin to look at physical structures and realize that these physical structures are not really permanent, then we begin to see the underlying structures, which is the structure where we look at the prana. Then what happens is that once we go beyond that, we go into what is called the sukshma sharira. That is the subtle state where we begin to look at our cognition, the way the data comes in, the way we process our information, and all of that. How our amygdala and our HPA axis responds. So we are moving from a reactive phase into a responsive phase. And this is basically what happens to us whenever we are in an environment. And then finally, as we evolve, we go into the Vijnanamaya Kosha, where the environment no longer has the ability to disturb us. We begin to experience more tranquility within ourselves, and then we stop looking at duality. We stop getting personally affected by various stimuli. So let us look at the various stages of evolution. The first stage is Jagrat. Jagrat means awakened stage, the normal awakened stage where stimulus comes, we process it and we react. The second stage is the dream state or swapna state. Swapna avastha or state, what happens to us is that after the event is over, we carry the baggage with us and we keep replaying that experience within ourselves. Either we replay the past experience or we play a future scenario. Both are dream states because they don't exist. Belief and hope are dream states because they don't exist. So we have to constantly purge ourselves of a situation where we are talking about things that don't exist. We have to be in the present. And when we begin to move into the present, then what happens is that we go into what is called Sushupti state. So we have Jagrat, which is the physical state where we are engaged in the physical structures that is around us. We have the Swapna state where we are carrying baggage or we are carrying plans. We have beliefs, hopes, desires, all of that. Then we are able to dump a lot of it because we realize that all that we are dreaming about and all that we are doing is not going to take us anywhere. So we have to remain in the present. If we start trying to remain in the present, the first thing we have to do is to apply chapter 2, where he says everything is temporary. If we apply everything that is temporary, we have to then discriminate between what is temporary, what is permanent. Because only the Brahman is permanent, it means that everything that we are working with is temporary. And that ability to discriminate is called Vivekam. Once we get Vivekam, then we need to step back. So in order to apply Vivekam, we need Vairagyam or the ability to be dispassionate. When we get that dispassion, we no longer live in that swapna state or the state of dreams. And then we move into what is called sushupti. That is, we are able to see everything without form. We see everything as equal. And that is a state where we are more or less of continuously being in the present, where ahankara, I am the doer, does not act. After that is the turiya state or the fourth state, where we transcend guna and we go into a nirguna state. Now that is a very evolved state, and it is a state which very few yogis can reach. So we can look at only the first three states of Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti. The most difficult stage will be to remove Swapna, remove belief, remove hope, remove desires, and remove fear. All these are impediments to growth. If the fulcrum of moving from Maya, the state of Maya, living in Maya, to transcending it and moving into the state of where we control our own destiny is swapna. So we need to be in the present, and for that we need to get rid of everything that is not relevant to our existence. So this is what Sri Krishna is talking about in these 5 verses. So let us recapitulate what yoga is. Yoga is the movement of the self from turbulence to stillness, from cacophony to silence, from the sense of doership or ahankara to inertness or bhasma. Thank you for watching. Do like, share and subscribe. For more information, please do visit www.schoolofyoga.in.